Part 55. After injecting penicillin, my lover infection recovered. In fact, at this moment, on the other side of the ward, it is just a shot. Bai Xuelan tried to remain calm, but did not dare to blink. He stared at the doctor injecting penicillin, which is more expensive than gold, and suddenly asked, "Is this all right?" The German doctor now knew that he was very impatient, so he smiled and said, Don't worry. Putting the empty syringe aside, let the nurses clean it up. Patted Bai Xuelan on the shoulder, and said, accompany him. Bai Xuelan looked at him, as if it was very relaxing, and I couldn't help feeling a little more relaxed. When the nurses were all tidy up, he said, "You go out, I'll take care of him here." Those nurses, after seeing him for a while, were extremely difficult to get hold of. The penicillin was 10 in one breath, which proved that this man had a lot of weight in the government, so her tone was more respectful, saying, "Are you taking care of yourself? Then we will be lazy for a while. However, he is now the small towel on the forehead needs to be changed constantly. Do you know how to change it?" Bai Xuelan said, "I know." Seeing his insistence, the nurse poured a basin of cold water and put it by the bed, and put 2 small clean towels on the edge of the basin, and they all went out. After a while, only the 2 of them were left in the ward. As soon as the surroundings were quiet, the distance between them seemed to have suddenly narrowed a lot, and Bai Xuelan's heart jumped for no reason. He leaned over and took a closer look at Xuan Huaifeng's face. His cheeks were still bright red. He didn't know if it was the psychological comfort given by the penicillin. Looking at it so closely, it is really picturesque, and there is no flaw at all. Bai Xuelan was in a trance, but suddenly felt a soft warmth on his lips. Only then did I realize that they were too close to kiss Xuan Huaifeng secretly, thinking to myself, taking advantage of the danger of others, this is really not good. If Huaifeng finds out, he must be stern again. However, as long as he stays by his side safely, even with a straight face, it is a beautiful thing. Moreover, he is sleeping now, how does he know what he has done? It's just, if you love someone, and you have to pretend to be in front of him and play all kinds of tricks, how will this love come about? Bai Xuelan secretly recalled that in front of Xuan Huaifeng, he sowed a lot of seeds of deception. For example, on the night of Nian's house, it was obviously himself, but now Xuan Huaifeng still thinks it is Lin Qijun. Another example is when Xuan Huaifeng took a leave of absence to go out that day. In order to drag him out, he put a warm water bag in the bed, pretending to have a high fever and getting hot all over. However, lying is not necessarily a bad thing. For example, now, if Huaifeng just lied and hid a warm water bag under the quilt, wouldn't he be upset? Bai Xuelan couldn't help but put his hand in and touched it. Of course, he didn't touch the hot water bottle, but only touched the clothes and a little skin on Huaifeng's body, which was as smooth and hot as suet. Accompanying patients is a very depressing thing, but for Bai Xuelan, time passes by. On one side, he changed the gradually warm towels on his forehead one by one. On the other side, he let go of the strange and silly thoughts in his head. At that time, he said whether it was fast or slow, as if in chaos. Swing past a ship that lost its rudder. And he, sitting on the bow, waited madly. With such ups and downs, after finally waiting for Xuan Huaifeng on the hospital bed, he let out a humming sound. Huaifeng. Bai Xuelan immediately regained his composure. He bent his head close, stroked Huaifeng's face with his big palm, and asked, "Are you awake?" with a doting smile. Xuan Huaifeng rolled his eyes slowly, and whispered in a hoarse voice, "I am extremely thirsty." Bai Xuelan hurriedly went to the small coffee table by the window to get a glass of cold water. But Xuan Huaifeng was lying down, the glass was slightly tilted, the water was chaotic, and Bai Xuelan was afraid of choking Xuan Huaifeng, so he went to find a spoon. There was a spoon prepared on the coffee table, but it was very difficult to use. I took a spoonful of water and dropped a drop on Xuan Huaifeng's cheek when I was a little careless when delivering it. On the contrary, Xuan Huaifeng found it interesting and smiled slightly. Bai Xuelan was very happy since he woke up. Seeing him laugh again, his heart was so happier that he could fly. Suddenly, the spirit and energy that had lost the rudder came back. His whole body seemed to have endless energy, and he gave him a deliberately fierce look. What are you laughing at? Are you laughing at me for being stupid? This will punish you. He bit his mouth on the edge of the glass, took a sip of water, and then, regardless of whether Xuan Huaifeng agreed or not, he put his lips against his lips and sent it to Xuan Huaifeng's mouth. Although Xuan Huaifeng felt that such a move might not be too shocking to the world, but Bai Xuelan's actions are not shocking to the world, and his throat was burning with thirst, so he took it. Bai Xuelan didn't expect him to be so obedient, so he was overjoyed. He smiled and said, "It's really good to use this scientific and economical method to feed patients water. Come on. I'll give you a few more bites." Like a child, he does not consider whether the other party is willing to cooperate or not. Xuan Huaifeng was fed several mouthfuls, and while he was breathing, he said, "Wait, I'll ask you." Before he could finish speaking, Bai Xuelan pressed his lips again and gave him a mouthful, and then he asked happily, "What do you want to ask?" Xuan Huaifeng said it casually just to make him stop. After thinking for a while, he said, "You say this method is economical. But I guess you mean it won't waste water and mess up the water. But why is it scientific?" Bai Xuelan laughed. "When you wake up, you have become a pedantic? I can answer this. Foreign newspapers say that people's saliva has the effect of disinfecting. In this case, I will use my mouth to disinfect the water first, and then pass it to you. From this inference, if you eat later, I will disinfect you first." Xuan Huaifeng said with an expression of disgust, "Enough is enough, the more you talk, the happier you are." Bai Xuelan said, "Okay. Let's skip this topic. Let me see if your fever has subsided a little." He lifted the towel that had slipped a little on Xuan Huaifeng's forehead, and pressed the back of his hand to his forehead. Xuan Huaifeng asked, "Do I have a fever?" Bai Xuelan said, "Yes, the fever was so bad in the morning that you were all drowsy. It's still a little bit hot now. But it's much better than in the morning. Penicillin is really good medicine. Do you still think what's wrong with you?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "When you say that, I really feel a little pain in my bones. My head is not as dizzy as yesterday." "What is penicillin? Haven't you heard of news? This is a new drug invented by foreigners. It is used to treat traumatic infections. You have to buy this from foreigners. Otherwise, in the army of my hometown in Shandong, many people died because of this wound infection. If there were 10,000 of penicillin, there would be countless people alive." Xuan Huaifeng smiled again. Bai Xuelan asked, "What are you laughing at again? Do you think I'm talking stupid?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "You are too suspicious, so I smiled. Why do you think in a bad place?" Bai Xuelan persevering, he followed up and asked, "Then why are you smiling?" Xuan Huaifeng said, "I just think your words of caring for the country and the people are very different from the usual robber-like image, so I smiled. Just to appreciate it. I mean." His high fever had just subsided a little, and his voice was a little sandy and low, but it sounded very seductive. In a word, Bai Xuelan's heart was numb when he heard it, and he looked at him with a little bit of infatuation. After half a day, Bai Xuelan asked softly, "Do you still want to drink water? Or should you eat something?" Xuan Huaifeng said, I've had enough water and I'm not hungry now, so I don't need to eat. Bai Xuelan said, that won't work anyway, drink some white porridge. Otherwise, I'll ask someone to cook fresh fish soup. Xuan Huaifeng shook his head. You can't keep taking care of me like this, go back to the mansion to take a bath and sleep. And come back tomorrow. Come on, I'm here, just ask someone to take care of it. Or if you leave Song Ren, you should trust him. Bai Xuelan said, I'll accompany you when you're in the hospital. Others take care of him, so what? I'm caring. Just as he was talking, he suddenly noticed a bit of embarrassment on Xuan Huaifeng's cheeks, and lowered his eyes to the bottom, suddenly understood. And showed a sly smirk, I see. Is it right? Xuan Huaifeng was in the middle of his inner urgency. He was very embarrassed when he revealed it, and said, I can get out of bed by myself. Bai Xuelan said, you are not allowed to get out of bed. He took the urinal and said with smiling, please, Adjutant Xuan. I will personally serve you today. This kind of personal obscene thing was actually done with the help of Bai Xuelan. Xuan Huaifeng was ashamed, but at the moment, he had no other choice but to do it. After rushing to solve it, I wiped my body, and hurriedly said I was tired, closing my eyes and pretending to sleep. Listening to the door being closed. Bai Xuelan seemed to have gone out. Not long after, the sound of the door being pushed open, someone was rustling behind him, not sure what to do. Later, someone whispered in his ear, wake up, eat something before going to sleep. Xuan Huaifeng had no choice but to open his eyes, twist his head, smell a refreshing soap scent, and look at Bai Xuelan again, changed into a foreign brand of casual clothes, and his hair was wet and black. He had already taken a shower and was clean. He looked very heroic. Xuan Huaifeng said, you washed your head with such a little kung fu, but it's really fast. Bai Xuelan snorted, do you think I'm just a pampered playboy? I dared to follow my uncles to the front line since I was a child. In the army, are you allowed to dawdle while taking a bath? The movements are very quick, and if you drag, you will be whipped. Xuan Huaifeng said, you must have been very naughty when you were a child, and you should have been whipped by your elders before you can be honest. Bai Xuelan said, you are often naughty now and play tricks with me, so what do you have to do to me to be honest? These words were so evil that Xuan Huaifeng refused to accept it, and changed the subject and asked, it's not that I want to eat it. Should I sleep again? What about food? Bai Xuelan looked at him as if he could see through his thoughts, and said, it's all done. I'll bring it for you. Xuan Huaifeng hurriedly said, if you want. Disinfect that poison, don't bring it. Bai Xuelan laughed, I'll feed it with a spoon, isn't it? Sure enough. He brought a bowl of warm minced meat porridge over and fed it to Xuan Huaifeng. Seeing that Xuan Huaifeng fell asleep again, he left the ward and said to Song Ren. Adjutant Xuan ate and fell asleep. He should probably sleep for 3 or 4 hours when he is like this. I called 2 nurses to take care of it. I have to go to take care of my official business. And I will be back in about 3 hours. He only made a scene in the Jinghua building yesterday, and there was a whole mess there. All kinds of wanted to hunt down the arrested person. Prevent the villains from counterattack, check Zhou Huo's smoke and soil haul, and trace the source of goods are all important things to do. Director Zhou of the National Police Agency was held hostage by him. This is a hidden danger, so be careful. Therefore, although he really wanted to stay close to Xuan Huaifeng, but there was no other way, Bai Xuelan took Adjutant's son and personally went back to the General Administration of Customs to make his arrangements. Lin Qijun was surprisingly annoyed today. When I woke up in the morning, I was thinking about going to the hospital to see Xuan Huaifeng, but when I thought about Bai Xuelan's face yesterday, it seemed like there were a few thorns in his clothes, and he felt uncomfortable. If I don't go to the hospital, I'll be more annoyed when I sit at home, and secondly, Yangxing has nothing to do. After hesitating for a while, after spending the whole morning thinking of Bai Yunfei coming, he ordered the driver to prepare the car and find Bai Yunfei. The last time I broke up with Bai Yunfei, it was an unhappy breakup. I always go with gifts on weekdays. Today, I can't do it empty-handed. So, he asked the driver to go to a foreign trade company. He picked a piece of Japanese silk and a tortoiseshell box for gadgets, to bring Bai Yunfei's joy. When they arrived at the White House, only Bai Yunfei's uncle was in the house. Bai Zhengping was very happy to see that Lin Qijun brought something again, so he hurriedly let Lin Qijun sit inside. Lin Qijun asked, "Didn't he say he was ill? Why did he go out again?" Bai Zhengping sneered and said, "That's right, he doesn't have a serious illness, but he doesn't even sing in serious dramas. And he said he would take 4 or 5 days off in a row. He said, if he wants to rest, he can rest, but if he doesn't rest well, he doesn't see anyone all day. He went out late yesterday, saying that he was going to see a wife from a certain age, and that family gave him some monthly silver, and asked him to teach him." Lin Qijun couldn't help thinking, and asked, "Is it the family of a senior director who works in customs?" Bai Zhengping said, "How dare I ask more about him? If I ask a few more questions, he will think that I'm going to reach for his money." As he said that, he raised his hand to his face, waking his nose with a groan. Lin Qijun looked at him so thin that his shoulders were high. His cheeks were swollen, and there was a layer of opium smoke. "Planting level? I heard that I have recently smoked other things, which seem to be more expensive. I also have pity on Bai Yunfei, who became relatives with these people, and their monthly income was stripped to nothing." Bai Zhengping also said that he wanted to boil water and pour tea. Lin Qijun was very concerned that Bai Zhengping couldn't get up, so he shook his head and said, "No, I'm not thirsty either. Go ahead and do your business. I'll sit here and wait for him." Bai Zhengping was addicted, yawned, and said with a smile, "Then I'm sorry, I have to wait here. The house is messy, and no one can clean it up. I will help him first with the things you brought. Take it and put it away." He picked up the Japanese silk and the tortoiseshell case and went out. Lin Qijun waited in the small living room for about half an hour before he heard the door outside being pushed open. He got up, stood on the steps in front of the hall door and looked out. And sure enough, he saw Bai Yunfei walking in slowly from the outside. Lin Qijun smiled and said, "Where did you go? Let me wait for a long time." Bai Yunfei was hurriedly walking in. When he suddenly heard his voice, he was a little surprised, looked up and said, "Why are you? You came here all of a sudden?" Lin Qijun said, "Listen to what you mean. I'm not welcome anymore?" Bai Yunfei smiled gently, "Where? I mean, if you told me first, I would have come back sooner. As for making you wait." He was very friendly, probably forgetting the last quarrel. This is one of his strengths that Lin Qijun likes very much. As long as he is a little bit red, he likes to make a tantrum over trivial matters. "Okay. I never tear up my face and make a fuss. Occasionally, I am a little dissatisfied. After a day or two, I don't need to apologize, and it will naturally recover." When Lin Qijun saw Bai Yunfei, his annoyance seemed to be gone for 2 points, and he couldn't help but feel a little more gentle. When Bai Yunfei sat down in the hall, Lin Qijun turned his back on the guest and went to Bai Yunfei's room, filled his usual small copper kettle with boiled water and sent it over, saying, "I can't find a kettle in your house. I only have cold water, drink a little." Bai Yunfei said thank you, brought it over, took a sip to his mouth, and said with a wry smile, "Speaking of a hot water bottle, I originally had 2, which were specially given by a female fan. One, I gave it to my sister, and the other one, which was originally in my room, just disappeared a few days ago. Lin Qijun sighed. Uncle Ling's family wants money, is this really the case? Bai Yunfei said. I don't know, maybe they're really in a hurry to spend the money. The heroin they smoke now is extremely expensive. Also, it is more addictive than opium. If it breaks for a day, it seems like it will kill people. Maybe they are not at this level, they just hate that I haven't gone out to make some money recently. And they can't complain, so they take the things in my room to vent their anger. Lin Qijun listened to the word heroin and thought for no reason to jump. Seeing that he was silent, Bai Yunfei looked at him and asked, "You just stand, don't sit down, don't talk, what are you thinking about?" Lin Qijun came back to his senses and covered up. "I just brought I'll give you a good piece of Japanese silk. Thinking of this season, it's time to make you a set of thin long shirts, and there is also a tortoiseshell box. Uncle Ling said to help you put it away, so he took it away, it won't be." Bai Yunfei smiled and said, "Probably now. I don't know which pawnshop he has already entered." Lin Qijun stomped his feet and said, "I knew I wouldn't let him take it." Bai Yunfei said, "It's nothing, since you sent it here. Most likely it's going to be in their hands." As he spoke, he covered his mouth and coughed lightly for a while. Lin Qijun thought he wanted to rest for a few days and asked for leave. But now seeing him like this, he seemed to be really sick, and asked with concern, "What's the matter? I don't think your cough is getting better. You should go to the hospital to see it." Bai Yunfei stopped coughing, gasped for breath, and smiled. "Coughing is a trivial matter, I only worry about my throat. When I opened my mouth recently, something was wrong. So, I asked for leave because I wanted to rest my throat. So, I have something to do. I'm too lazy to quarrel with my aunt and uncle, and the noise is so bad. Who will sing for me?" After he coughed and panted for a while, his cheeks naturally flushed a little, and his eyes were bright and soft, which was very attractive. Lin Qijun couldn't help but get up and put his hand on his face and said, "It's a mess here, I'll take you to the hotel, open a room, and let you rest comfortably. Even if you eat, you can also stay in the hotel. Eat, avoid your aunts and uncles, and you will have a few days to spare." Bai Yunfei was stunned for a moment, his smile became a little unnatural, and he said lightly, "I don't even want to go to the hospital, why would I want to go to a hotel?" Lin Qijun was also stunned when he heard this, knowing that he meant to condemn him. But his original intention was not what Bai Yunfei thought. To satisfy his lust, he really just wanted Bai Yunfei to have a quiet place to recuperate, and he was convenient to be by his side. Even if it is an intimate affair between lovers, it is natural to wait for Bai Yunfei to recover. Lin Qijun felt that he was wronged. Inexplicably, his personality was questioned by an actor. However, Lin Qijun's temper rarely flared on the spot. Although he was unhappy, he didn't leave in a hurry. He sat on the half-worn sofa and asked another topic, "Just now, where have you been? Let me wait like this." Bai Yunfei asked, "Your old classmate, the adjutant Xuan of the General Administration of Customs, was injured, did you know?" Lin Qijun said, "Of course I do. I went to the hospital to see him yesterday." "What?" Bai Yunfei said, "Really? I went to the hospital yesterday, so I may have missed you." Lin Qijun asked curiously, "Why did you know the news so quickly?" Bai Yunfei said, "I and Mrs. Nian has contacts and was a guest at Nian's house yesterday, and it happened that the news of the adjutant Xuan's injury came. And Mrs. Nian was very frightened, so I naturally followed to take care of it." Lin Qijun said angrily, "You and that Mrs. Nian, now but you are acquaintances." Bai Yunfei smiled and said, "She is pregnant now, and even if she is familiar with me, we will not go to the hotel." Lin Qijun never paid much attention to Bai Yunfei's interactions with others before. Lin Qijun just blushed and sighed. You always misunderstand my good intentions. In your eyes, am I such a shameless and filthy person who takes advantage of your illness to show my lust? Bai Yunfei smiled and said, I dare not. Young master like you, who is willing to support me, is already my nobleman. Do I still dare to accuse you of anything? If this topic goes on, it is inevitable that the two sides will have unpleasantness. Bai Yunfei asked again, have you seen Adjutant Xuan at the hospital today? Lin Qijun shook his head. No, I was planning to go, but I was afraid it would disturb his recovery. I'll go again when he is better. Bai Yunfei said, I heard that he suddenly burned very badly this morning. It seems that the wound was infected. Lin Qijun was surprised and asked quickly, where did you hear that? The infection of the wound is not a trivial matter. How is he now? Bai Yunfei said, didn't you just ask me, where did I go? It was Mrs. Nian's house. Thanks to her appreciation, please ask me to teach her a few plays to relieve her boredom. I've been resting these days, so I made an appointment to go there every afternoon. Where is she going? I didn't expect to go today, I just met Director Nian as well. He stopped halfway through. Today Nian's house, because I was familiar with the concierge, I went directly to the door. But I happened to meet the Nian's couple arguing in the living room, and the voice came outside. Bai Yunfei didn't want to cause trouble. He originally planned to turn around and go back. But he didn't expect that before he left, Nian Liangfu had already threw the curtain and came out of the living room, and rushed towards the door in a rage, almost bumping into him. Nian Liangfu was so angry at the time that he didn't apologize when he bumped into someone, but instead stomped and cursed. In this way, Xuan Dian knew that he was here. But instead asked Zhang Ma to invite him into the living room, weeping at him, and saying a lot of words. This is a family matter. Bai Yunfei only said one sentence. Thinking of Xuan Dian treated himself well, he shouldn't have said this to others, so he stopped talking. Lin Qijun didn't care about being Nian Liangfu, and asked, how did Mrs. Nian say that she was sick with the wind? Bai Yunfei replied, Mrs. Nian said that when she went to see it in the morning, Adjutant Xuan was suffering from a high fever and said it was an infection. It was very serious. Fortunately, Chief Pai had the courage to lead someone to the Prime Minister's office and ask the Prime Minister directly for it. A foreign medicine came. If it weren't for Chief Pai, this time would be really embarrassing. The medicine is also really good. After Mrs. Nian returned home, another adjutant of Chief Pai called to report that the high fever of the adjutant Xuan had subsided. A lot of people are awake. Lin Qijun's face was full of tension. He was relieved after hearing this, and said, that's really good. Bai Yunfei was a little curious. I don't know what medicine it is. Why do I keep trying? Only the Prime Minister's office can get it. It's too expensive. Lin Qijun's family owns a foreign company, and he has some knowledge of various things in foreign countries. After thinking about it, he said, if it is necessary for infection, it's penicillin. This is an amazing thing, and you can't buy it with money. I heard that this thing is only for military use now, and even a big foreign company like my family can't buy one. Do you think it is expensive or not? Bai Yunfei sighed, so that's the case, it's really expensive. Adjutant Xuan is really lucky to have such a daring boss and a sister who loves him, who is 100 times stronger than me. If I have suffered this injury, and I still don't know who will help me get a medicine. Lin Qijun was reminded of yesterday's memory in the hospital by him. Thinking that Xuan Huaifeng was in the ward under the strict supervision of Bai Xuelan. After the operation, the person's brain is dizzy, and his body has no strength. what Bai Xuelan wants to do to him. Of course Xuan Huaifeng can't resist, and no one can control it. Thinking about it, my heart aches. It's like a soldier on an expedition who learns that his lover at home has been bullied by villains. Seeing that he suddenly gritted his teeth and didn't speak, his cheeks were tightened. And he couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? It seems like someone is suddenly angry." Lin Qijun said, "No. I just heard about the condition of my old classmate. My mood is a little bad." At this point, he was calm to Bai Yunfei, chatted for half an hour, and said that he was going to deal with the matter of Yangxing. And took 100 yuan from his pocket to Bai Yunfei, and told him to see a doctor. Then, he left by car.